Greed can be said to be one of the scariest things in life, because it can cause many terrible consequences. The story we are about to tell below is a typical example. A New Jersey, USA, woman convicted of killing her husband and hiding his remains in containers sobbed in court as the judge sentenced her to 55 years in prison. Loretta Burrows, 63, cried her eyes out during the sentencing as a relative of her late husband, Danny. After all, Loretta admitted that she dismembered his body and took his remains with her when she moved to many places to live. Ms. Burrows was arrested in May 2013 after Danny Burrows' body parts were found in a wardrobe in the guest bedroom of the Ventnor home from which she was moving out. Loretta Burrows and Daniel Burrows first met in the 1960s when they were both quite young high school students. They dated for a while before going their separate ways in life. After many years of separation, the two got back together. Daniel and Loretta's relationship is described as very sweet. Having both been married and divorced in the 1970s, Loretta remarried, but her husband passed away in February 1994. Afterwards, Daniel and Loretta rekindled their romance and got married in 1997, after dating for 3 years. They both have children from their previous marriages. Loretta has 4 children in total. Everything seemed great when the couple lived together in Mays Landing, New Jersey. Daniel enjoys working on cars and often fixes them for free for many people. He doesn't hold a steady job, instead working on side jobs or projects. Years passed, and things between the two weren't as smooth as they seemed. On August 7, 2007, Loretta announced that Daniel had left with a young blonde woman in a yellow Hummer with Florida plates. Whenever anyone asked, Loretta claimed it was a waitress from Florida. They'd met the woman at a restaurant during a vacation, where they kept returning because Daniel loved it. Loretta returned home to find Daniel in the car with another woman. He announced he was leaving for Florida with the waitress. Upset, Loretta decided to take a vacation with her daughter's family. Daniel, according to Loretta, had always dreamt of retiring in Florida. However, Loretta cherished being close to her family and wasn't willing to leave. This clash of desires created conflict in their marriage. After Daniel's sudden departure, Loretta sold all his belongings. She explained she couldn't bear seeing reminders of him around. This raised suspicion with one of Daniel's friends, who knew how much those items meant to him. Daniel's entire family, especially his half-brother Raymond Wantorsic, also did not believe his sister-in-law's story. Daniel moved out but left all his belongings behind. He did not leave a new address, nor did he even announce his move to Florida, even though the two of them often talked and visited each other's houses. In September 2007, Raymond reported his 61-year-old brother, Daniel, missing to the police. The police checked local databases but found no indication that Daniel had traveled to Florida. The police spoke to Loretta, who seemed very cooperative. Their search of the house revealed nothing unusual or suspicious. Authorities then looked into Loretta's background and discovered what this woman had always wanted to hide. About 10 years ago, she was arrested for embezzlement. Loretta embezzled about $500,000 from the company where she worked. Loretta insisted that there were others involved and that she was just cannon fodder. At that time, Loretta was very afraid that Daniel would know about her arrest. However, even after that, Daniel's feelings remained unchanged. He often visited her for more than 2 years in prison. A friend and neighbor of Daniel's told police that around the time of Daniel's disappearance, he noticed Loretta had dirt on her hands and clothes while talking to him. In addition, he smelt a terrible odor coming from their house, but Loretta said it was a dead animal. The neighbor also noticed a broken trellis that had been repaired recently. Loretta was able to answer all the police's questions and maintained her testimony about her husband leaving with another woman. The authorities did not have any clues or evidence for charges and arrests, so there was nothing more they could do. Daniel's case just became deadlocked. In 2009, about a year and a half after Daniel's disappearance, Loretta filed for divorce. Notices of the divorce were published in the press. When the court date arrived, Daniel did not appear. Consequently, the court issued a judgment granting Loretta a divorce. Loretta later sold the couple's home in Mays Landing and moved to Ventnor, New Jersey to be near her daughter and sister. Thereafter from then on, Loretta completely cut off all relations with her husband's children. For many years afterward, relatives searched tirelessly for Daniel. They went to everyone they knew to ask if they had seen or heard anything about Daniel. They also posted missing person posters everywhere and set up a social networking page called Find Danny Burrows. In their hearts, they knew something terrible had happened, but for 6 years, they still did not give up hope. In 2013, Daniel's family continued to petition the government. Their efforts paid off when a newly established unit specializing in reviewing unsolved cases took over and decided to reopen the investigation. Loretta's story of Daniel leaving her for another woman in a yellow Hummer in 2007 never made sense to the police. Witnesses never saw such a vehicle at the house. However, police found no concrete evidence. The authorities decided to investigate the death of Loretta's previous husband. Family members and friends always suspected that Loretta killed him. Loretta Burrows and Daniel Burrows broke up but got back together just about a week before he died. The cause of death was determined to be a drug overdose, and it was Loretta who gave her husband those pills. However, she was ultimately not charged and received a sum of money but never gave anything to her stepchildren. Although Daniel's body was never found, raising suspicions, the police lacked sufficient evidence to prosecute Loretta for murder. They did, however, discover a possibly forged authorization document signed by Daniel. The power of attorney, drawn up on June 12, 2007, before Daniel's disappearance, was notarized by a friend of Loretta's. It seems clear that the house, with its great value, is what this woman desires most. Daniel's stepson said Loretta was very nice to them in the past. After a few years, cracks began to appear between Daniel and Loretta. While Daniel wanted to move to Florida, where his 2 children lived, and retire, Loretta did not agree. After her husband died, Loretta sold the house and kept all the money for herself. On May 17, 2013, a search warrant and an arrest warrant were issued simultaneously for Loretta's home in Ventnor City, where she lived with her sister. This swift action likely prevented Loretta from destroying evidence. Thanks to that, the investigation agency discovered a horrifying secret. As Loretta prepares to move house for the 4th time, the police show up at the door with a search warrant. Loretta's face registered concern. In one of the bedrooms, police found large boxes covered in plastic bags and stacked on top of each other, hidden in the closet. They also noticed air freshener beads and dryer sheets placed on the containers. When the boxes were opened, the police immediately smelled decomposition. 2 boxes filled with bone fragments were found. In addition, another box, wrapped in tape and plastic bags, was also discovered. Inside it, a woman's handbag containing a skull was found. At the same time, Loretta is questioned at the police station. She bursts into tears and admits to killing her husband. She then says he's always with her. According to Loretta, Daniel is in the closet at her house. This confession confirmed the police's suspicions. They now knew for sure they had found the remains of Daniel Burrows. Loretta then recounted the story of domestic abuse, saying that she killed her husband in self-defense. According to Loretta, the two had a fierce argument. She went into the kitchen to get a knife. Loretta affirmed that when Daniel rushed to attack her, he unfortunately stabbed himself. However, further investigation revealed that this was not an accident. In fact, evidence showed Loretta intentionally killed her husband in August 2007. In 6 years, Loretta moved house 3 times and always brought with her the boxes containing her husband's remains. On May 17, 2013, when this woman was about to move house for the 4th time, the authorities discovered everything. Friends and family of the victim believe Loretta killed Daniel because she opposed their move to Florida. Determined to sell his house, Loretta then forged his signature to dispose of it and other assets. In court, Loretta kept changing her emotions. The forensic pathologist and forensic anthropologist both testified that marks on the victim's ribs were consistent with stab wounds and determined the victim died from murder. In fact, the prosecutor alleges, Loretta's sinister plan began months before the murder. Back in early June 2007, she approached a lawyer about drafting a power of attorney, claiming they were selling the house but that Daniel would be out of town. This power of attorney, the prosecution argues, would allow Loretta to finalize the sale alone. However, they believe she ultimately forged his signature on the document. In 2015, after 2 hours of deliberation, a jury found Loretta Burrows guilty of murder in her husband's death. Loretta, now 63 years old, was sentenced to 55 years in prison for murder and 3 years in prison for hindering apprehension. She will be eligible for parole in 2060, when she will be 108 years old. This means that Loretta will most likely have to spend the rest of her life in prison. According to prison records, the woman remains incarcerated at Edna Mahan Correctional Facility for Women in Clinton, New Jersey. Loretta Burrows' story serves as a stark reminder of the dark depths to which human greed and deception can plunge. The horrifying tale of her husband's brutal murder and the subsequent concealment of his remains for 6 long years continues to haunt those who knew Daniel Burrows and follow the case. For the community of Mays Landing, the case highlighted the importance of vigilance and the need for a supportive network when facing suspicions or irregularities in their surroundings. Neighbors who noticed odd behaviors or foul odors now reflect on how small, seemingly insignificant details can sometimes be pieces of a much larger and more sinister puzzle. Loretta's incarceration at the Edna Mahan Correctional Facility for Women marks the end of a gruesome chapter, but it also begins a lifelong sentence for a woman who allowed greed to overshadow morality and compassion. While she will spend the rest of her days behind bars, the story of her crime continues to resonate, reminding society of the critical importance of truth, integrity, and the rule of law. Daniel's children, who were left without a father and deceived by their stepmother, have had to rebuild their lives in the shadow of this tragedy. In the end, the tale of Loretta Burrows and Daniel Burrows is a somber cautionary story. It underscores the destructive power of greed and deceit and serves as a powerful call to remain vigilant, compassionate, and committed to seeking justice for all. And you, what do you think about this case? Please leave a comment below.